was a movie, and it started now, forget about whatever financial disasters you've had, personal failures, relationship failures. What would the hero of your life's movie do right now?
Hello, and welcome to Dad's Dating After a Divorce, the only podcast out there for men like us, dads traversing the wild and interesting world of dating after divorce, which looks nothing like dating pre-divorce. My name is Jude Sandoval. I am the founder of the Divorce Advocate and your co-host. My other co-host today is Dallas Bluth. Today and always, I don't know why I always say that, the founder of Black Box Dating. How are you doing, Dallas? Hopefully better than my tongue and my mouth is this morning, apparently.
Yeah, I'm doing great. Your tongue and mouth might not be working. My nose isn't working. I've been congested for the last 5 days.
Right.
It's the start of the season, for all that stuff going into the holidays. But I got to roll with it, right? It's just part of being on planet Earth.
At least we're going to warn the listeners up front. This might not be the most audibly pleasing episode because we're both struggling this morning. So bear with us. We've got a great topic, though. It's definitely going to be worth it for you listening to. I'm affectionately titling it, Let's Get Physical. The old Olivia Newton-John, and I'm dating myself with that reference, right? The Olivia Newton-John song, Let's Get Physical. But we're going to be talking about how to introduce physical touch and becoming intimate with a woman. We've kind of been talking about over the last several weeks some dating tactics and how to welcome somebody into, how to give, what do you call it? Invitations. Yes. How you give invitations, etc. So now we're going to talk about how you kind of take that next step and invite into physical touch, right? So let's set the scene. Dallas, you've kind of been dating maybe on a couple of dates, right? And hopefully you know or understand how to introduce some physical touch into that, because really when we're doing this dating process, right, we're wanting to create connection with somebody, and part of creating a connection with somebody is a physical connection with somebody, but that doesn't mean that you're going to go and start making out with them on the first date. Right. Which can happen. Like that does happen. It can happen, right? And that's not necessarily a bad thing. And we can talk about that a little bit. But at the very least, you're wanting to start to create that physical connection with somebody. And so let's talk about first, how do we start to kind of break that touch barrier with somebody in those first few dates where you're starting to build connection. Maybe you're liking this person, you're getting some of the signals back, but you might not be totally sure. Like what's going on in our mind? What are we thinking about? What's the situations, and how do we kind of start to introduce that?
Yeah. Okay. Great topic. This is a really, really important one.
Funnest topic, right? Like we all want to be touchy feely and like eventually be intimate with somebody, right?
Yeah. Okay. So this starts much, I would say, earlier in the dating process than what you just laid out. I would say physical touch is something that needs to be a natural part of our lives as men. If physical touch begins when we are expressing attraction and desire for a woman, you're too late for it to feel natural and appropriate and welcomed. Physical touch needs to be something that is firmly established from the very beginning. Okay, we're just going to back this up. Even before you're on a date, physical touch should be something that you get to a comfortable place with yourself and with people around you. I'm not saying you go around and you touch every person. But I know I've had situations. I'm at line at Starbucks, getting something. I'm kidding around with a husband and wife next to me, and we go back and forth. And that husband will clap me on the shoulder. He'll break the physical barrier and he will touch me on the shoulder, once or twice. And it feels amazing for me as a straight adult male to receive that from another straight adult male. It makes me feel welcomed. It makes me feel like we took it from just kidding around into feeling grounded and connected. The level of trust is larger. I feel relaxed around him. And he did that with his hand. He did that because of the way that he physically touched me. Okay, there is 0% physical sexual attraction built into that scenario with that man and his wife. 0 whatsoever. But there is a huge amount of good feelings and vibes in that physical touch. That's a skill that every adult man needs to develop. And one of the challenges we run into in the United States is that American men, we have been told, we have been taught, we have been conditioned that most of our touch is sexualized. Yeah. That is way off topic. That is way wrong. We have to understand that physical touch, physical connection begins in a non-sexual context and then can, with certain people and certain feelings, move into an attraction, sexual, special, intimate affection realm. But we have to start with being comfortable with non-sexualized touch. And you begin to do that by on the first date. But before I go into that, let me let you jump in and respond to.
I just wanted to make the point to the dads listening that if that's uncomfortable for you, or if you didn't even know that, then it's not your fault. That's something that's modeled, right, by an adult male in your early adult life or your childhood that knows and understands that. Because like I didn't understand that. As well, the shoulder slap, like sometimes you'll like slap another guy on the shoulder, and like that's just a fun thing, right? And you don't know that, or like buddies that you might be closer, you might put your arm around and be talking, or like at a game or cheering, like that's exactly what you're talking about. And so I feel like, and we're going to get into this, we just have this weird. I don't want to say weird because for whatever reason it's developed and things develop in society for whatever reason, but just this uncomfortable, being uncomfortable with physical touch in general in our society. And you're right, it has been, and I hadn't really thought about what it has become, but it's become like, oh, you touch and it's sexual, whether it's male, whether it's female, it's not. And it's really not, because you see men in other countries that embrace each other and kiss each other. And that's really, really normal. And it's obviously not that sexual. The other thing I'll talk about, or that I want to point out, is like handshakes. You do get taught handshakes as a man oftentimes in the corporate world, and how to do that, and how to support underneath or putting over when you're shaking with the other hand and stuff, and what the different meanings are around that. So that's all the same. That's all kind of the same concept here of what we're talking about. And I like that you started it off with the male part of it, because it translates into how you act, like you said, how you are able to act and how comfortable you are feeling with a woman in doing it. And so I think that's good. And maybe we can, this was not even in my notes, right? I was going to talk about it in the context of women, but let's talk about then how do we develop that with our bros, right? With each other and doing that without making it weird. Like we're not going to, I'm not going to start going and kissing my buddies, right? Like they do in Europe. Right. So that's like probably off the table. That's just going to be a little too much for everybody to handle. Right. But how can we start to do that and feel comfortable?
Yeah, good question. So what we have to do is realize, so let's take a handshake, for example. Mm-hmm. When you go to shake someone's hand, that's like saying, hello, how are you? It can be extremely commonplace and meaningless. It can be very much just going through the motions, and it doesn't hold a whole lot of anything in it, meaning, intentionality, presence, and any of that. However, I don't know, for 1 out of every 10 or 20 people you shake their hands, for some reason it feels different. That person is actually present in that moment. That person, they actually make time stop for just a moment to let you feel that your presence is being fully seen by them. Okay, that's what you need to be practicing with the physical touch. We're not slapping each other on the shoulders, trying to get, I don't know, comfortable in a completely nonchalant, meaningless, kidding around, roughhousing kind of way. There's nothing wrong with that, but that's not what we're talking about when we're talking about physical connection. So when I go to shake a man's hand and I really want him to feel that I respect him, I really want him to feel that he has my undivided attention. I want him to feel my physicality joining up with his physicality. I had this actually when we were doing our field work last Friday on Halloween. One of the guys in the group was there, and he was a little bit uncertain about how to do some of the physicality with a woman. And so I love to just demonstrate and role play with it. So I took his hand, and I pulled his hand together and I put my other hand on it and I held it for a minute. And then I said something like I would as a guy, in a particular scenario that he was talking about. And I took my hand away and I said, "How did it feel just now when I held your hand? Like, what was the feeling inside you?" He said, "I felt calm. I felt grounded." And I was like, that's exactly it. I'm not making a move on you. He gave me the example of like rubbing a girl's back slightly, patting it. And I was like, that's not nearly as grounding as what I just did. And it was combined with eye contact. It was combined with slowing down the speech. It was showing presence, like you said, being present, and your presence and being present. It shows all those things. That's the starting place, is to realize my physical touch is a vehicle and a mechanism for connection. Am I creating that connection with another man? Does that man feel honored, seen, strong, like he's my brother, like we care about each other? Not just that we're bros slapping each other during a football game, but like, does he see that I'm actually with him in this moment? That's the kind of presence you want to practice with your physicality with other men.
Yeah, and I wanted to add that feeling that they get from you all stems from you having, and we say it every week, right? And we're probably going to hear this from us guys every single week. You already having that feeling in yourself and being present in that in your masculinity already, and that's going to translate. It's going to be a less. Yeah, there's some tips like I talked about, like putting the hand under when you're shaking, and the firmness of the shake, and how many times you go up and down, and how you release. Like, there's all those skills, but really what it's going to come down to is the energy, like you described, that you're conveying to them. Does it feel grounded? Does it feel safe? Does it, with a woman, right? Does it feel safe? Does it secure, et cetera? And that's going to be different with different people, but it's going to come from the energy that you're bringing to the situation and to being present.
Yeah. I would even say, why am I shaking this man's hand? If you can't answer that question, you're not being very present and you're not being very purposeful in your physical touch. Even in a business context, I'm shaking this man because I want his respect and I want him to know that he has mine. That's why I'm doing this. And I'm going to convey that on my face with, nonverbal cues that I'm giving in my body language. And I'm going to convey it with my physical touch. And the reason we start this with men is because it's safe with men. I don't have to worry about another man feeling terribly overpowered by me or threatened or whatever. On average, generally speaking, I don't really have to worry about this with other men. So it is a safe place for me to develop these skills and this sensitivity with myself. I can practice being present. And then I can translate it into being physical with women. Women are going to be much more sensitive. Women are going to it'll be much easier for a woman to feel threatened, to feel like, why is this man touching me? What is the context? So it really helps to essentially rehearse this, get comfortable with it with other men where it's basically 99% safe. And then you transfer over the same sort of intentionality, the same non-sexualized communication. And again, what I'm expressing is, I feel physically certain and safe in myself and in my body. I am extending this out and sharing it with this other person. I was doing it with men. Now I'm going to do it with women as well. And I find, it's perfectly fine that scenario in the coffee shop when the guy says it, and we'll be kidding around. We switch sides, and I'll make a physical connection with his wife. There's no issue. There's no problem there because we're not doing this to come onto each other. We're doing this to establish that we're on the same team.
Yeah.
These are all skills that you want to practice before you get into a date scenario where there is the romantic question. Because you want to show the woman, hey, I'm actually quite comfortable with myself physically. I'm comfortable with connecting with the world physically. And that's the foot I'm starting out on. When you see each other and you have that first hug, yeah, awkward. Do we do it? Do we not? Do we shake hands? Do we, I'm going to make room for her here. I need to guide her. She's feeling just as awkward as you are most of the time when it comes to how do I orient myself physically in the world.
Right.
The more you can show up really physically grounded in yourself, completely present, and you're able to show why you're doing the physical gestures that you are. When you put your hand on her back and you lead her off to the side because we are in the way, waiting for our coffee to show up, and you just move her out of the way to make everything function better, you're not making a move on her. You're not trying to get physical because you're attracted to her. You're demonstrating what everybody experiences in your presence as a man. That is the starting place for being physical with a woman.
Right. So let's talk about some of those things because you mentioned making a physical connection with the guy's wife or the girlfriend too. A lot of this stuff translates across the board. And what you just described in showing up in the world and feeling comfortable in your physicality, in your body, and being able to navigate that on a daily basis. And so some of those things I described a little bit earlier is with guys, like you said, the tap on the shoulder, or sometimes it's like the tap on the upper arm of like a slap on the arm, or like, hey, yeah. Or so I hug my guy friends, I hug my daughters, I hug everybody. So I'm usually like, and I'm 6'2", so I'm pretty big, but I'm also cognizant of like some people that don't want to do that. So kind of walk us through some of the things. The other one that I feel like that I've worked on a lot is like if you're joking or if you're animated in something and touching somebody's hand or arm when you do that, or like when you want to make a point, like if you're making a point and you like that kind of anchors a point with somebody, especially if you're in an intimate conversation or at least an exclusive conversation with somebody, whether it's sitting and standing. And if you're making a point and you maybe reach out to touch their hand or their arm or something like that to like really anchor in what you're saying, and while you're making the eye contact, which is important because if you're doing that and you're looking around, that obviously is not, that's disjointed. You're looking at somebody else and you're touching them and making that would be weird, right? But you're making eye contact, you're touching them to kind of anchor the point or the conversation or emphasize the conversation you have. Let's talk a little bit about that, how you can do that with men, women, but then it carries over into, like you said, showing up in that. Now, let's make a distinction too while we're talking about this, because I think it's important. When we're maybe having a conversation with one of our buddies and doing that, it's going to connotate something different than if we're doing that on a date, right? And you've got to understand the mindset. You talked about women when they show up. There's a level of vulnerability just showing up to a date that a woman is expressing and experiencing, right? And so you've got to understand that in your physicality there, it needs to convey something different, like safety and security. Yes. And protection, rather than when you're doing some of these same things, which there's the same skills, right? If you're doing with your buddy, you're maybe trying to make a point or emphasizing or being lighthearted or something like that. So, okay, I just gave you like about 30 minutes worth of stuff to talk about there. So get it done in 15 with your magic, like you usually do.
Yeah. Thank you. Yeah. And we always go over. So try to compress it down.
Yeah. So, right.
Okay. So I think you definitely hit the nail on the head. Women experience more vulnerability in life than men do. On average, they have more to watch out for when that happens. So when we are physical with a woman, particularly one that we don't know, the main meaning, the main message that we're trying to convey in physical touch is you are safe when you're around me. And the way we convey that to her is we have to have that in ourselves. I, as a man, have to feel I have safety inside of me. The phrase that I use with my clients is you're trying to reach a place of physical and emotional certainty within yourself as a man. If I feel physically certain and if I feel emotionally certain in myself, that is what I'm sharing with someone around me. If my touch with a woman on a first date is I'm reaching out and I'm doing it because I want us to feel safe. I want to feel like, that this is okay, what's going on. This is, it's a we thing. That's not, I haven't established physical and emotional certainty. I'm not grounded in myself the way I need to. I need to walk in the room fully grounded. And then I'm extending that, like I don't know, like in Star Trek, you extend the shields from your ship around the other ship, and it creates this feeling of okay, this vessel is safe in itself, and it's extending a shield around this other one. But she doesn't want to feel like you have to be doing that in order for you to feel okay and safe on the date. She wants to feel that this is, again, an invitation. You can have my protection, young lady, if you want it. It's here for the offering, and it's quite attractive, but you don't have to. It's just an invitation for you to be in that presence. And she might not be comfortable with that yet. She might recoil and pull away. Let her. If she is not comfortable with a hug, you need to be physically and emotionally certain and grounded enough in yourself to be able to accept that. And you have to just see how that plays out over time. Coming back again to the sensitivity that women experience and how that changes.
Let me stop you real quick. I'm going to add another thing in here because I think this is really important, which is another challenge I find in society with men knowing what you're just describing there. Your ability to make somebody feel safe has to come from you knowing what you are capable of physically. And I think that's part of the challenge that we're having with young men these days. I think it's a little less with maybe our age men who grew up like tackling each other on the playground and getting in fights off, on the playground and then, wherever else, et cetera, when it was more socially acceptable for that stuff to happen because that was just kind of how things happen. And Warren Farrell talks about this in his book called The Boy Crisis, that it's been difficult now for men to really understand if you understand how dangerous you possibly are because you've engaged with another man that is dangerous also, and you've tested those boundaries, you then can understand better understand. You can never understand how a woman feels, but you can better understand how you can create that safety net and that safe feeling for them. So I add that in there to just give the guys a tip around, if you haven't experienced this physically, maybe you need to do some work on that. And that work can be different for different guys. Some is just going out and playing a physical sport. Some it might just be getting into your body and doing really hard workouts or something. But learn where you gauge your physicality and how powerful you can be and really dangerous we can be as men at times, so that you then have like some benchmark, right, to be able to bring that to the situation. So I just wanted to interject that. I think that's really important because I run into a lot of guys that just haven't done that and haven't really gotten into their bodies or tested that physicality. So proceed.
Yeah, thank you. That's completely spot on. And the only way to really incorporate it into yourself is through a physicality. You tackling other guys, having tested your physical limits, having discovered that masculine energy does innately have a very dangerous component to it. That has to be lived. It has to be felt. You can't just think it. You have to, go through one of those, boot camp warrior weekend type things to find out what your limits are. This goes back to hunter-gatherer days. Boys, the initiation into manhood was scary. Boys would be taken away from their mothers, put out in the wild with grown men around, so it is somewhat supervised, but they're put into dangerous and frightening, scary situations because we have to face that as young men to then grow up into more fully developed men. And that is part of the physical certainty, that what I'm calling physical certainty, that physical assuredness you have in yourself. Now, I'm going to pair that again with emotional certainty. I can have that physically, and maybe, older generations, they might be very physically certain. A lot of them, though, are not emotionally certain of themselves.
True.
Younger generations maybe have more emotional certainty and less of the physical certainty. Everybody's going to come at this from a different background. They're going to have a different blend. It doesn't matter. Physical and emotional certainty are the key ingredients of making you feel attractive when you're on a date and in the world at large. And I'm going to say this isn't something that you work on once and then you're you're done with it, or you have to do some maintenance work. I would say, from myself, 90% of the work I do in creating physical and emotional certainty is with myself. Yeah. And of that 90%, most of it's before I ever interact with another person. I spend most of the day working, digging, facing myself to get to a place where I have the deep-rooted, solid, concrete block, physical and emotional certainty, so that I simply experience deep calm within myself.
Yeah.
And when you bring go for it.
But I do also want to add the caveat in there to the dads listening, because you're a pro, you do this every day, and you're really good at it, and you make it look very, very easy. That's a lot. Which is great. The dads out there, they're working all day long, and then they're coming home and taking care of the kids, and they got to pay the bills, and then they got maybe an ex that's hassling them or whatever. We understand that this isn't something that we expect you to just sit down then and carve out study time for hours a day and become Zen master in that. It could be as simple as making sure that you're involved in some sort of men's group, having men's time with guys, doing something with the guys, and then just being conscientious about what we're talking about here. And then maybe taking a skill like embracing your buddy, or the shoulder slap, or making a point and touching his arm or a shoulder or something like that. And then just working on getting comfortable with that. It can be as simple as that. I feel sometimes, Dallas, we talk about a lot of this stuff and we know it sometimes and we've done the work, but like the guys listening are going, Jesus, are you shitting me? Because I got all this stuff and you want me to focus on this skill and that skill and being emotionally ready. And I was like, holy crap. Like, let me
get more illustrative about my personal practice. Very little of what I'm talking about in striving for physical and emotional certainty in myself comes from me taking time out in my day to be mindful. Yeah, I do have a meditation practice, but that is not where most of this is done. Because in those moments, it's actually not where I'm being tested the most. It's throughout the day when I'm trying to respond to emails, I'm in meetings, I'm at a networking event, I'm recording on camera, I'm coaching men, I'm working with groups, I'm working with contractors. I have busy days where I have lots going on, even though I don't have kids. It's throughout the day that my feelings of uncertainty, of insecurity come up. It's in the middle of the challenge. And it's in the middle of the challenge that I choose on one level, I'm dealing with this contractor, but on the other level inside of myself, I am asking myself, Dallas, how do you reorient yourself in this moment to create more physical and emotional certainty for myself and for the person that I'm working with. So this is something that's going on in parallel with all the other responsibilities, all the other activities in life. And what it really boils down to is this is a guiding star. It's a North Star that I'm going to. I want to choose orientations inside of myself that lead me to a more grounded place.
Yeah.
I do not take half the day out to, go to my special retreat temple and, and like do all of this. This happens when the rubber meets the road, because you know what? That's when we get scared. That's when we have live wires that we have to deal with. And when you're on a date, you're going to have the same challenges come up. And that's where you have to be looking for these deep rooted certainties within yourself. You have to find it in the live action when the juice is running through the wires. Right.
Well, and let's be clear, you are a guru. You don't spend your day in meditation and doing all of that. But and I didn't mean to insinuate that either. But I think so maybe we can sum that part up as if you have feelings come up around that, whether it's you experience another masculine man that does that and you're like, oh, that's interesting. Or like you're attracted to that, right? I think that's the big one. You see a guy that's masterful at this and you're like, oh, we talk about Brad Pitt all the time, right? But we're like, oh man, like that's like, he's cool. Like I'd like
to get a hug from Brad Pitt
exactly.
And stop the moment. Oh my gosh.
I want to get one of the best
highlights of my life.
Yeah, exactly. So be aware. Maybe we can just say be aware, whether that's like a positive feeling towards that or a discomfort around it, and like, oh man, I'm not feeling comfortable in how it's happening or how I'm showing up. Also, to just be aware and then just do some reflection on it, and then take what we're going to talk about now, which is those skills of how to do it, in incorporate that in your daily life.
Yeah. Okay, yeah, that's awesome. I know we always go way over, and right now we've gone into how to ground yourself as a man
we just gotta
physically.
Stop worrying about going over, because this is important. It's honestly, Dallas, I talk about all the time. Nobody talks about this stuff, and if you didn't have a male role model that really either just modeled it for you, or even better yet, modeled it and talked to you about it and guided you through it, none of us know any of this stuff. And I wish I had somebody talking. I wish I had something like this to listen to, which is why you and I love to do this, to listen to really try to get an understanding of it. And so it's important stuff, and it's really good stuff. So we'll just keep doing it. We'll just keep talking about it.
In another episode, I would love to revisit what you said about asking yourself how it feels to receive this from another man, because that's actually at the very heart and really my story of how I became a dating and relationship coach. It comes into that, but we will say that for another episode of how that came into play. But let's get back to the more important and fun topic of how you go from a grounded place where all touch is neutral into the romantic side, because I think that's what the guys definitely want to hear about, is how do you then take that into that place. Do you want to jump in with your take on that before we?
Well, so like I said, it transcends whether it's touching another man or a woman. The difference for me is the context in which you're doing it, and the mindset that you're having around it, and what you're trying to accomplish by it. So for me, if I'm on a date and things are just flowing and we're having really great conversation, it's pretty easy for me to be laughing about something and touch her hand, or just making a point and touch her forearm or her elbow or something like that. It's real easy if we're walking through somewhere. I mean, this is just from being, I don't know that I ever even learned this. It's just my masculine nature of protection. Maybe it's having daughters, but like wanting to move her away from something that might be harmful to her, and doing that with a touch on the small of her back, right? Not their lower back, not her butt, like, and then not taking her by the shoulders and maneuvering her around. Like, it's just a touch and a guide with your hand. So, but the underlying context is safety, is security, feeling protected, and that's the real difference in how I'm approaching it, especially if I'm on a date with somebody who's a romantic interest. Now, I think that's another distinction also that we can make. This mindset is, I don't want to say should, but will probably, when you get comfortable with it, with women, whether it's a romantic interest or your daughters or just a mutual friend, is going to be very much the same until you want to cross that romantic barrier. And I'll let you take it from there.
Yeah. So I agree. Establishing physical touch in a safety, reassuring sense, that's the place to start. And you practice it with everybody. You practice it on the date as you would with people that you're not on a date with, because you want that woman to feel like she is in a larger, safe world with you. Great.
Yep.
Okay, now I'm attracted to her, and I don't want her to only feel safe with me. I want her to feel aroused. I want her to feel I'm aroused. And the word is arousal. This is where attraction comes into play. Butterflies, start coming out, and women want us to be aroused. They want us to be turned on. They want us to be attracted to them. And we want them to be attracted and turned on when they're around us. And this is a very different kind of touch. It's still connected. It's still safe, but it extends into an area where the intent is arousal. And you want to be very clear with yourself that I'm not trying to sneak in kind of a little bit of like a grab on the butt or maybe a brush against the boob or something mixed in with feeling safe. That's creepy. And creepiness, the nature of creepiness is you are concealing your intentions and hoping nobody notices. It's creepy.
Oh, that's great. Say that again.
Creepiness is where you're concealing your intentions and hoping nobody notices. And people who feel that somebody's being creepy, it's because he's not being forthright and upfront about the fact that he's asking her out. He wants her number. When I'm like, hey, I came over here to talk to you because you're gorgeous and I would love to take you out. I might not be the most charming guy in the world if I say that, but there's no way that I'm seen as creepy because I'm being transparent. I'm not concealing anything. Okay, so we have touch that's very safe. We don't want to somehow just kind of sneak in. I know that was the old stereotype is like you're at the movie theater, you yawn, you put your arm around her. Okay, if you're doing it in a cheesy way and you're laughing at yourself, that's fine. Laughing at yourself is a way of saying, we both know what I'm doing and it's ridiculous. That's transparent. That's being obvious. A less cheesy way to breach that barrier from safe touch to touch that involves arousal or has the intent of arousal is to essentially it's a smirk. You don't have to actually have a smirk on your face, but a smirk is I'm desiring something and I'm holding it inside and we both know what we want to happen. And I'm exercising discipline, and that's creating this tension, but you can tell what I'm after here. That should prelude, that should be what you begin with, is for her to see your intention is arousal. Your intention is affectionate in a romantic way. Your intention is intimate. And you want to give her the chance to see that you've gone from checking her out and going, okay, the vibe's all right, we feel good, you're not crazy, this is all good, to I want to make a move on you. Now notice, I'm not saying, is it okay if I make a move on you? If that's the first question in my mind, I'm not connected with myself properly.
Right.
Me saying to myself, I want to make a move on her, I want to make a move on you. I know this in myself. I'm going to come back to, I have physical and emotional certainty in myself that I want to make a move on you. Okay, that's hot for a woman. I'm not laying that on her. I just know that about myself. And she can decide whether to say yes or no to that desire and that invitation. That is the starting place, is for me to not ask myself, is it okay for me to want to make a move on her? And definitely not for me to ask her, is it okay if we? No, that's not hot. That's being a little boy. That's being needy. That's asking her for permission. you grant yourself permission and say, yes, it's okay to have the desires that you have. And you're expressing that in a smirk. You probably have a little bit of flirting. You have something else. You can say things in words, like, I don't know, like one of the things off the top of your head is, it's like, oh, well, yeah, well, we'll get back to that later when when I'm kissing you, in the parking lot. And,
Right.
you're throwing it way out there in the future. She has plenty of time to say no, and she knows it's not happening right now. Another one that I feel is good, this is a line that I feel is rather effective, is you're a little too far away right now. I want her to be closer to me in proximity. Me saying you're too far away, that has nothing to do with safety. That has to do with I want you closer to me. If she's in a chair, if she's on the other side of the table, you can't do this. But let's say you're at a bar and you're next to each other. I will physically, if I can do it safely, physically take the chair. And all I'm looking for is not no. If she's leaning back, if she's saying no, if she's putting up barriers, okay, clearly I shouldn't do it. If it's yes to neutral, I'm just going to go ahead and, if I can safely grab her chair, pull the bar stool over closer to me. Usually women love that because I'm now demonstrating that I'm doing it. I didn't even touch her directly, but her entire body got shifted by my desire.
Yeah.
And that's a way of stepping into it.
Yeah, well, let's talk about some of these nonverbal cues also that we can pick up on before trying to move it to romantic physicality, which is testing some of those boundaries of touch and seeing how she reacts. Like, is she comfortable when you touch her hand and you're making a joke, or her elbow, or is she pulling back? Is she moving? Is she shifting her body? Is her posture away from you as opposed to direct? Is she making eye contact? These are all things that you need to pay attention to, because that's gonna help to move you towards this next step, which is what you are describing. When you do pull in, is she like laugh? And this is, you're gonna know when she pulls in, she's gonna laugh and be like, oh, that's hot. Like, he's strong and he's pulling me closer, and he's you're not doing it. You're not doing anything other than shifting physical proximity, right? And it's not creepy, right? So, or the conversation of what you're talking about, having some fun, witty banter around something like, when you're making out, or if I have to keep you from kissing me later or something, whatever you might be saying. What's the reaction you're getting? Is she playing along with it, or is she just like not? And if she's not, then we get into this whole consent, non-consent thing, which we got to talk about, because it's out there, and there's some really, really like off the charts people with this that literally want you to sign a form and go through like a stamping ceremony, and there's consent, and it's just ridiculous, because you should know and you should understand whether or not consent is happening in the moment. And this, I think, goes back again to this whole boy crisis and our inability, many of our inabilities. Well, our inability is, one, to teach boys this, but to have taught and made women feel comfortable in just having that consent happen naturally, which is the sexiest, hottest way in which we connect with each other. So let's talk. Let's get it out of the way and talk about it.
There's a whole lot there. Yeah. I always find the best way to avoid this is just have a notary public on speed dial. Exactly. And if they're willing to be in the room while having sex, then that's the safest possible. Yeah, right. What better way to kill a mood than that?
Right. This is after the woman that you meet with.
So here's what I have to say.
And you go and you in attorney style, you've got the attorney with 20 questions, you pass the quiz, and then you got the consent form, and you've got the notary there. Like, that's the anyway.
It's official. File it with the county so that it's on record.
There we go.
Public, in a
we
public
can make
way.
out.
Yeah. Okay, so these are issues that are important. Okay. If you're in doubt of whether or not this woman is in the mood, wait until you know that she's in the mood. So a lot of guys, this is kind of sad, but a lot of guys, the bar that they're shooting for is consent.
Yeah.
You know, a lot of men are looking for women that say yes to it, or they're saying okay, or I agree to having sex with you. Unfortunately, this is the bar and the target for a lot of guys. I say this to my clients all the time. Consent is a really low bar. The reason it's a low bar is because the quality of sex when all you have is consent is kind of crappy. What you want is desire from the woman. You have desire on your end, and you don't want her saying, okay, yes, I give you permission to exercise your desire with my body. Lame, really lame sex.
Yeah.
What you want is, first of all, to present your desire as desire. Again, you know, the smirk that we're talking about, the energy, I'm not hiding it, which makes it not creepy. And when you show and you share and you flex your desire and you continue to maintain responsibility for it, that's hot. You have to hold that long enough, and you have to present it and package it and deliver it in ways that are effective enough that the woman then in return has desire coming up inside of her. On average, it's going to take longer for her desire to come up than yours as a man. That's just women warm up longer, but they retain the heat longer. That's just how it works.
Right.
But what you want to be shooting for to avoid any technical complications of, oh, was there consent or not? Guys, alcohol, it lowers inhibitions and it maybe makes things easier. But to your point, in today's world, it makes it really complicated. Drugs, same thing, makes things a lot more complicated. You don't want to be branded with any of these things. You don't want to be setting the bar at simply consent. Desire from the woman. The woman's like, hell yes, I want you to take me back to your place. That's what you're looking for, that both people are ready. And if you're not there yet, guys, you're not going to have good sex yet. You're not. If what you're looking for is just sex.
Can I add that takes connection, right? So it's not, it's if you're looking for consent, that's wrong. If you're looking for connection, then you're on the right track. So if you're connecting with her in a way that's it's tapping into her desire, then you're on the right track. And then you can start to test these. The consent part is really just feedback for her desires, the way that I look at it, right? So if you're testing, I feel like, and tell me what you think about this, Dallas, is it you're testing your connection through these small little consensual interactions that you're having with her at every given point. And that starts maybe with when you meet her the first time, and does she hug you, and is she open to that? Does she shake your hand? And then in the conversation as well, and then as you described, in doing little things and expressing your desire, moving her closer to you, moving her through a crowd or something like that. Like, is she reacting positively to each of those things? And then when you're getting to the point where you might want to kiss her and go to that next level, then is she leaning into you when you hug her goodbye, maybe the day prior, or when you see her when you show up for that date, or is she still not quite there when she sits down? Is she sitting by you? Is she engaged with you, etc.? Like, those are those little consensual things that you're looking for, that's building connection. And then you can take that to that next, and then it's just kind of natural. Then that she wants to kiss you, right? And then maybe there's some tricks around how you go in to do that without it being like, "Can I kiss you?" Which is just ridiculous.
Well, yeah, a lot there. I was laughing because the movie Hitch. People bring it up all the time when I'm talking to them about it. And there's that scene when Will Smith is the dating coach, Hitch, and he tells him, you lean in 90%. And the guy, his protege is like leaning in, and and then and they're holding it, and there's a moment of tension. And then he goes the last 10% and kisses Will Smith, and Will Smith freaks out. He says, "I said 90%, not 100%." And but that is again when I'm leaning in and I'm about to kiss her, but I don't, and I'm holding it and I'm waiting to see how does she respond to that. This is all about the woman's response. Is she leaning in? Is she leaning away? Or is she being some sort of ice queen, steadfastly in the middle, not reacting, which is sort of its own category of what to do with it. You don't have to ask verbally. You can ask with your body language. When you're leaning in and getting closer, does she lean towards you or does she lean away from you? And that's basically all you're looking for in all of these interactions. Is she leaning into what you're doing or is she leaning away from what you're doing? All the body language cues, all the verbal cues, all of the playfulness and the flirting, it can be boiled down to, is she leaning in, which is a yes, or is she leaning back, which is a slow down or stop? And basically what those two are is they are encouraging me to continue what I'm doing or discourage me from what I'm doing. A lot of women are not that aware that they have that much power over men in how they respond to what we're doing. But basically, if you're wondering, does this woman like what I'm doing? Just ask yourself, is her response to what I'm doing encouraging me? Or is her response to what I'm doing trying to cool the jets and discourage me? That's all you need to really know. Because if you're being encouraged, go ahead and show a little more. Go ahead and flex a little more of your desire. Go ahead and lean a little further out there and see if she continues to encourage you by leaning back in towards you. There are endless amounts of body language, verbal stuff, cues. There's all kinds of stuff. One great book, I'm just going to throw it out there, Vanessa Van Edwards. She is a body language expert. Maybe I've mentioned on the podcast before. Her latest book, Cues, breaks this down into so many small levels. And it doesn't matter how good you are at body language. There's always going to be more that you can see and understand. She's amazing. I've listened to her on podcasts. She's really wonderful live. If you're looking for specific cues, and the cues are basically, I'm closing off, I'm shutting down, I'm not feeling that safe, I'm not feeling that encouraged, I'm feeling, like I need to kind of keep to myself, versus, encouraging cues are ones that are more open, more exposing yourself, more inviting, more saying, I want more of you in the me space. This is, but they basically fall into one of two categories. And you just have to ask yourself, is this encouraging or discouraging behavior from the woman?
Yeah, she is amazing. And she talks about all of how we're kind of, I don't want to say messed up, but confused in society around that and how you can make that better. Other thing I wanted to add is you talk about expressing your desires. You can do that verbally also. So while you're using and I feel like that's even sexier and more fun and can give you some feedback as well. And instead of it being questions while you're leaning in, it can be statements, like statements of your desire. I've been wanting to kiss you all night, as you lean in. And does she laugh and lean back in? Does she like grab your head and start making out with you because she's been wanting to also? That can be helpful too. So if you're being upfront and about what you're doing, what you're guys, let's just lay it out there. There's nothing wrong with desiring women. Like, we are designed to desire women, and women want to be desired, right?
Yes.
They don't want to be, let's be clear. They don't want to be consumed, right? But they want to be, and that's your word, right? Like, like we're not out there to consume, right? We're out there to connect, desire, like that's mutually beneficial. And that comes back to your mindset, and expressing that stuff is perfectly okay, guys. Like that we should also, there should be talks or studies about the verbal communication around that too, because why not? Why not talk about how much you desire somebody, how much you like what they look like or how they smell or their voice, like all this stuff that I think that's gone away with poetry and some of the old arts around romance, if you will, that we've kind of lost, and now we're on, let me drop into your DMs, like, what the hell is that? How about you write her like a little poetic note and leave it in her pocket or something like that. That's creating a desire, opening up a desire. It's communicating your desire, and that's sexy as hell.
Yeah. And communicating your desire is being vulnerable. When I am sharing with her what my desire is, I'm being vulnerable. And again, women experience tons of vulnerability. I feel, and I have seen very consistently, that it is more effective for a man to balance the scales by going first in his vulnerability in the interaction. Sharing my desires for her, if I say, it's just, I really want to touch your hair. I'm just sharing with her a desire that's inside of me. And a lot of times women's like, well, I would love for you to touch my hair. It's about time. We've been talking for an hour and a half. I would love for you to go into more of a physical space. I think I also want to lay down here, it's very effective also I know you mentioned saying something and leaning in at the same time. There's nothing wrong with that. I also find it very effective, though, to break these pieces apart. So I'll say that, like, I really want to touch your hair. It looks so beautiful. And I don't do anything. That creates tension. That creates anticipation. And she's like, and then it forces her almost to say and, meet that with desire of, well, I want you to touch my hair now. Similarly, if I come, and I do touch her hair, and then I come back 20 minutes later, there's a lull in the conversation, I don't say anything, and I'll just put my hand through her hair, and I'll simply go back to it. I don't have to verbally say it. She knows what I'm coming back to. And in a lot of ways, not saying something makes the touch even more impactful. I talk to guys, when they're meeting somebody, and what their interests are, and you're trying to plan dates and all that. So I tell them, great, you've been given some ammunition. Don't shoot it all off at one go. Like, you want to make every single round count, every one of them. You want to be strategic. You don't want to blow everything that you have right up front. Say what the desire is, and then wait. If I use everything at once, that first of all, I've run out of material. I have to wait for more material to arrive. And second of all, there's no room for generating a sense of anticipation, romance, mystery, and tension. This is one of the things about being physical that I can't believe we haven't said it here, and I'm sure we're coming up on an hour. Women, what's the saying? Men need a place, women need a reason to have sex.
Yeah.
For men, it's fairly simple, but women, they need a reason. There needs to be a story, a drama, a tension. There needs to be some romance. There needs to be stuff around it. We have to break down what we're doing and leave room for that anticipation and that romance to be built. And when we do that, she's much more aroused and ready for the physical touch. If we take everything, package it, and deliver it all at once, I just would love to kiss you, and then you lean in and kiss. I'm not saying that can't work, but it would be more effective to give her time to plant these little seeds, let them kind of take root, and let them start doing things inside of her. That creates the arousal where she's, again, not just consenting and saying, yes, you can kiss me. She's wanting and eager and hungry for you to kiss her. That's where we want to be as a man.
Well, and it's like stoking a fire. And we've talked in the past about women are like slow cookers, right? Like it's you're taking your time through this. And to your point also, it's going to take you some time to understand what that desire, how to tap that desire, like stoking the fire. Like you don't stoke the fire the same way. Like there's different conditions that are out there. Sometimes it's windy. You gotta build a shelter. Like there's different ways that you're going to stoke that fire. And that's only going to take you looking for those little cues that are, maybe she doesn't like her hair stroked. Okay. Like, okay. So then like that's not the way there. So you're going to look for something else. And then you're just building that slowly and surely. And then that's when it becomes really, really intense, and then you've created that tension, and then it just becomes really awesome.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think to your, maybe what's also part of the point you're making is that every woman's going to respond to
Certainly.
different invitations. They're going to respond
Yeah.
to different desires. Don't
Yeah.
assume, that every woman is going to respond the same way, in the same timeline, in the same order. They're going to respond differently.
Yeah. So
I think
Dallas, okay, go ahead.
So one last thing I just want to come back to. So the word for this, of moving from safe physical touch into arousal touch, romantic touch, affectionate touch, the word is escalation. You're moving into higher energy levels. You're escalating the energy levels. You're getting closer and closer to taking clothes off. It's escalating things in a lot of ways. Men, you need to understand that somebody has to escalate. In a perfect world, the two of you are just over the moon, crazy about each other, and it just happens. And it's happened to all of us. It's amazing when it does. Not the case most of the time. Escalating is a dangerous, scary, edgy activity to do. And it is totally on you as a man, because it's sexy when men do it. It is expected. It's enjoyed. It is a good thing. It is positive to escalate, which means you take it from just safe touch into arousal and romantic and attraction touch. Escalating is good. Escalating is healthy. If you don't need to worry about anyone, throwing a fit about the fact that you're escalating or inviting someone to escalate. You're on a flippin' date. Of course, that's part of it. This happens at a certain point. Don't try to escalate in the first 10 minutes. Wait and move it along. But don't wait for the escalation to happen on its own. There is no it to escalate. Somebody has to reach out and choose to escalate. Don't be afraid to do it as a man.
Yeah, and I think the word is risk, right? There's going to be a risk associated with it, but there's going to be a risk associated with it all the way. So when you're at each one of these different phases, if you will, is an escalation, right? So, and there's a risk associated, but you're looking for the feedback, and also. If you don't get the reaction that you were expecting, that's okay too, because it's not failure. So there's risk associated with this, but don't look at it as a binary risk. Like I feel like oftentimes not just dads, but guys get into fail. That was a fail. Well, it's not a fail. It's feedback, right? So maybe the feedback is. Like you haven't stoked the fire, or you haven't found the right way to stoke the fire yet, or there's a conversation that needs to be had, or whatever that might be. It's feedback, and that's just going to help you to know what that wasn't the good one. I can check that off the list. Let's go to the next one, and we'll see that. Or maybe I need to pull back, and I need to cultivate this. I need to get more of an accelerant to put on that fire, like whatever it is.
Yeah, she didn't like my invitation. She either didn't like the man, she didn't like what I was inviting her to, she didn't like the look, the feel, the smell, the height, the weight. Who knows? But you extend an invitation. If it's truly an invitation, that's open-ended. If it's truly an invitation, if it is not open-ended and you're hurt or getting bent out of shape, that's not an invitation, dude. That's a request.
Yeah.
You need to learn how to extend invitations, make them attractive. That'll increase, your positive response rate, your desirable, outcomes. It'll increase, the ratio, of what your percentage of good responses are. But you have to remember these are just invitations, and not every woman is available. Not every woman is going to match with it. It's going to be, a small percentage. And by small, I mean definitely under 50%. That's normal. Yeah. That's fine. That's not a fail. That's part of how you do it. When you go out hunting, you don't see a deer to shoot every hour. No. And like going out on dating, expecting every woman to say yes is sort of like expecting a large game to appear, like one an hour. Like I've never been large game hunting, but I think you can go for days without seeing anything. That's the nature of it. That's simply the way that it works.
Yep, absolutely. I'm actually heading out this week to go on my large game hunting, and yes, it's been a couple of years actually since we've gotten an animal. So yeah, that's a perfect analogy. I think to end on, I feel like we can end here, and this is a good spot before we talk about like sexual intimacy with somebody and how to introduce that, because I feel like that's a whole, maybe I had it on my list to talk about, but as usual, we got into nuance and some of the really, really important stuff that I think that was really good. So we can save that next step for a whole episode in and of itself, and talk about how to then go to that next level with somebody as well. So Dallas, that was awesome. Where can the guys connect with you?
Jump on over to blackboxdating.com. You can check out the men's coaching program that we have there to see all the details. Once a month, we do field work live in the field, which is something that all the guys really enjoy. Feel free to come and join us. There's a 2-week free trial, so just start it right before then, and you can come on out with us and meet in person. Same to you, Jude. How can guys follow up and get more of your divorce wisdom?
Well, and before I give them that, I do want to point out the fieldwork stuff that you do is awesome. We're talking about also doing some stuff as well that's live and in person as well. And maybe we talk about what we mentioned a little bit earlier, and doing stuff where guys start to get used to their physicality and how to do that sometime in the future as well. I know it's something, like, if you guys want to jump on that right away, get involved, like fully involved in Dallas's community, because they're doing that on a regular basis and talking about that stuff. And then, man, you've got the master guru here that's, standing there holding your hand while you're doing it in the field. Like, that's why, I'm going big game hunting. There's a difference. Like, if you go somewhere and you find a guide that's local to the area, you have a much higher probability of having success, right? That's not what I'm doing. Like, I'm out, I'm searching on my own, I'm figuring out, my buddy, like, we're doing that. But just know your probability of whatever your intention is, guys, increases if you get involved with a coach like Dallas, and then you immerse yourself in that with other guys that are going through it. You're going to have success rates that are exponentially higher than just trying to figure it out on your own. So, and that's a plug for coaching in general, and dads who are listening and are going through a divorce or post-divorce, the Divorced Advocates, what I've created and founded as well, to help you to understand dynamics, not only around dating, but co-parenting, dealing with your kiddos, dealing with all of the complexity of life post-divorce. And you can check that out at thedivorcedadvocate.com. So, Dallas, man, always a pleasure. Lots of pearls. I appreciate it. Have a terrific week, and we'll pick this up again next week.
Thank you, Jude. Yeah. See you next week.
Be the hero of your own movie. If your life was a movie and it started now, forget about whatever financial disasters you've had, personal failures, relationship failures. What would the hero of your life's movie do right?